Hi everyone, welcome back to the Movie Reviewers 100. My name is Scott, also known as Cineram. I do the Thursday reviews here on this collaboration channel on YouTube and on Facebook. In case you haven't already done so, there's a link below to our Facebook like page where you can give us feedback and comments on our videos and suggest new themes for the future. We do a new theme every week, and this week our theme is the director Ron Howard. Who has had a nice long career dating back to the 80s as a director. Of course, he was an actor prior to that. He was on the Andy Griffith Show, he was on Happy Days, but he segued into directing pretty much full-time, starting with excuse me, Grand Theft Auto, which he did for Roger Corman's studio. Since then, of course, he's gone on to do movies like Splash, which EJ reviewed, and he directed Ransom, one of my favorite films of his, with Mel Gibson. He won an Oscar for directing A Beautiful Mind, which also won Best Picture. James talked about Willow, which is the fantasy movie that George Lucas produced. He did Backdraft. He did the recent racing movie Rush. But the movie that I wanted to talk about was Frost Nixon, which was nominated for but didn't win Best Picture in 2008. Ron Howard again was nominated for Best Director, and Frank Langella was nominated for Best Actor for playing Richard Nixon, a role which he also played on stage. This movie is actually based on a play by Peter Morgan, and Peter Morgan wrote the screenplay. And so not only did they carry over the screenwriter, but also the lead actor. I'm not really sure who played David Frost, the interviewer, on the play, but in the film he's played by Michael Sheen. Michael Sheen, of course, is a really terrific English actor who's probably best known for playing the Prime Minister in The Queen opposite Helen Mirren, who won an Oscar for that role. It's kind of similar circumstance, actually. Basically, the real showstopper role, the big showcase role, was occupied by Helen Mirren in The Queen, and in Frost Nixon by Frank Langella, whereas Michael Sheen basically was just sort of playing opposite them. It was sort of a two-hander, but he gets the less glamorous, less showy part. David Frost was an English TV personality who had shows in London and in Australia and in New York City, and he had a lot of success. But as the movie got underway, as the story begins in the film, he's actually working in Australia and watching on TV as Richard Nixon is resigning after the Watergate scandal and the cover-up and all that stuff. The missing minutes on the White House tapes and what have you. He realizes that tons of people are watching Richard Nixon right now, and wouldn't it be great to interview him about all this stuff? Imagine the kind of ratings that he could get from that. So he spends a couple of years putting together the possibility of sorry, it wasn't a couple of years, it was more like months. But he wanted to strike while the iron was hot. He got one of his old friends, a producer, to help him out with that. He hired a couple of researchers who were played by Oliver Platt and Sam Rockwell to really see what kind of dirt they can dig up on him. But Nixon, despite the fact that he doesn't have the most graceful demeanor, he doesn't have the looks or the charm of Mr. Kennedy, for example, who he lost to the debate to many years earlier. He still is really good at steering the conversation his way. He accepts $600,000 to appear in the interview, which really puts David Frost in the hole because he can't get the networks interested, he can't get sponsors interested. They all are afraid that this talk show host is not going to ask hard questions of Richard Nixon, and Nixon is going to come out looking better than ever because the whole country basically was really upset about what happened with him and the fact that he was pardoned by Gerald Ford, the following president, and would therefore never have to stand trial for anything that he might have done wrong. One of the things that the Sam Rockwell character wants, because he's so adamant about Richard Nixon's guilt, said, what we got to do, we got to put the screws to him, and we got to give him the trial that he didn't have on TV. So that's the thrust of the movie, basically. It's the preparation for the interview and, of course, the interview itself, which doesn't go all that great at first. They're devoting basically 4 days to the taping, and for each day they focus on a particular subject. This is all in the contract, so they're required to stick to this. 1 day is devoted to Vietnam, 1 day is devoted to Nixon's foreign policy. The final day is devoted to Watergate, so that sort of brings the climax to the movie and, of course, the interview as well. That's very important that they get him to talk about Watergate and his role in the cover-up and the fact that he did actually commit crime. That was sort of the whole objective of the movie. I'm not going to tell you how that comes out in case you haven't seen the movie and in case you haven't read about it in the history books or on Wikipedia or what have you. So I'm not going to spoil the ending for you if you don't already know about it. But it's a good dramatic movie. Again, I've always felt that Ron Howard is sort of a normal director. Nothing really distinctive about his style. He changes it pretty well between films depending on what he's doing. For example, the look of, say, How the Grinch Stole Christmas is very different from Rush, which is very different from, a lot of the other movies that he's done. There isn't anything particularly visually distinctive about Frost Nixon, but it's certainly a well-written movie, very well acted, and a good watch, certainly. Yeah, though I'm not the biggest fan of Ron Howard, there are a couple of movies of his that I really like, in particular this one and Ransom. Ransom's a pretty great thriller. I wanted to mention one other thing. Rebecca Hall. This is one of the first movies I saw Rebecca Hall in. She was in The Prestige a couple of years earlier, but I didn't really know who she was. And I'm not sure if she's playing a real person or not. She basically is a woman who David Frost meets on a plane, and then they have a relationship that lasts throughout the whole rest of the movie, but she has no character. She isn't playing a character, and if she has any character at all, it was cut out of the movie. She's just basically the girlfriend part. This is a movie that would definitely fail the Bechdel test. Early on in the movie, as they're talking on the plane, he's getting to know her, and she's asking all kinds of questions about him. And then at one point he says, "But enough about me, let's talk about you for a minute." And then they cut to the next scene. Any backstory we have, any background information at all we have as to who she is, all we know is basically her name and where she lives and the fact that she's, in a relationship with David Frost. Pathetic excuse for a character in a movie. So yeah, that points off right there. But aside from that, it's really good. So that's my review. Again, please visit our Facebook page if you haven't already. We start a new theme next week. Actually, tomorrow. Tomorrow is when our new week starts. So I hope you look forward to that. And thanks again. Later.